When I came out with my first book, If You Want to Be Rich and Happy, Don't Go to School, a publisher suggested I change the title to The Economics of Education. I told the publisher that with a title like that, I would sell two books, one to my family and one to my best friend. The problem is that they would expect it for free. The obnoxious title, If You Want to Be Rich and Happy, Don't Go to School, was chosen because we knew it would get tons of publicity. Good morning, everybody, and hope you all had a wonderful weekend. Let's get straight into it. It's the beginning of a new week, the chance to get some really amazing things done, because we all have goals and we're either growing or we are dying. So let's grow. Let's read some Rich Dad Poor Dad. We are on page 220 in chapter 6, which is very exciting. Here we go. So we were just talking about how not so talented people who are not really educated or those kinds of things, can earn so much more money than everybody else. And then he finishes away, they are one skill away from great wealth. What this phrase means is that most people need only to learn and master one more skill and their income would jump exponentially. I have mentioned before that financial intelligence is a synergy of accounting, investing, marketing, and law. Combine these four technical skills and making money with money is easier than most people would believe. When it comes to money, the only skill most people know is to work hard. The classic example of a synergy of skills was that young writer for the newspaper. If she diligently learned the skills of sales and marketing, her income would jump dramatically. If I were her, I would take some courses in advertising, copywriting, as well as sales. Then instead of working at the newspaper, I would seek a job at an advertising agency. Even if it were a cut in pay, she would learn how to communicate in shortcuts that are used in successful advertising. She also would spend time learning public relations, an important skill. She would learn how to get millions in free publicity. Then at night and on weekends, she could be writing her great novel. When it was finished, she would be able to better sell her book. Then in a short while, she could be a best-selling author. So the chapter started with this lady who was interviewing Robert Kiyosaki, who was a little bit jealous probably that he was a best-selling author and she wasn't, even though he seemed to do it so easily and she didn't, and she did not like the idea of having to sell. So of course, her books, even though she was a good writer, were not selling because she wasn't a saleswoman and she hated sales. When I came out with my first book, If You Want to Be Rich and Happy, Don't Go to School, a publisher suggested I change the title to The Economics of Education. I told the publisher that with a title like that, I would sell two books, one to my family and one to my best friend. The problem is that they would expect it for free. The obnoxious title, If You Want to Be Rich and Happy, Don't Go to School, was chosen because we knew it would get tons of publicity. I am pro-education and believe in education reform. If I were not pro-education, why would I continue to press for changing our antiquated educational system? So I chose a title that would get me on more TV and radio shows simply because I was willing to be controversial. Many people thought I was a fruitcake, but the book sold and sold. Being controversial is extremely good. It is uncomfortable, but being controversial often gets you people who are passionate about what you're passionate about, and they will follow you because they like your style, they like what you are doing, and they are very happy to see that you stand for something that is extremely important. When I graduated from the US Merchant Marine Academy in 1969, my educated dad was happy. Standard Oil of California had hired me for its oil tanker fleet as a third mate. The pay was low compared with my classmates, but it was okay for a first real job after college. My starting pay was around $42,000 a year, including overtime, and I only had to work for 7 months. I had 5 months of vacation. If I wanted to, I could have taken the run to Vietnam with a subsidiary shipping company and easily doubled my pay instead of making 5 months of vacation. I had a great career ahead of me, yet I resigned after 6 months with the company and joined the Marine Corps to learn how to fly. My educated dad was devastated. Rich Dad congratulated me. In school and in the workplace, the popular opinion is the idea of specialization. That is, in order to make more money or get promoted, you need to specialize. That is why medical doctors immediately begin to seek a specialty such as orthopedics or pediatrics. The same is true for accountants, architects, lawyers, pilots, and others. My educated dad believed in the same dogma. That is why he was thrilled when he eventually achieved his doctorate. He often admitted schools reward people who study more and more about less and less. Rich Dad encouraged me to do exactly the opposite. You want to know a little about a lot, was his suggestion. That is why for years I worked in different areas of his company. For a while I worked in his accounting department. Although I would probably never have been an accountant, he wanted me to learn via osmosis. Rich Dad knew I would pick up jargon and a sense of what is important and what is not. I also worked as a busboy and construction worker, as well as in sales, reservations, and marketing. He was grooming Mike and me. That is why he insisted we sit in on meetings with his bankers, lawyers, accountants, and brokers. He wanted us to know a little about every aspect of his empire. When I went to the hotel school, which I did a couple of years ago, I remember that there was somebody who was complaining because we had cooking lessons, and one of the students said, "Why do we learn how to cook? We are going to be managers," because I went to a management school. And so we learned cooking and a couple of other things, housekeeping and those kinds of things. And somebody was complaining about it. And the teacher said, "Well, how are you going to manage a chef? How are you going to know if they are throwing away too many things? How are you going to know if they are doing a good job? How do you know if they are XYZ if you don't know how to do it yourself? How are you going to tell him that he is not doing it correctly? How are you going to manage him if you have not done it yourself, if you don't know how to do it yourself?" Very, very important point. Let's have a look. When I quit my high-paying job with Standard Oil, my educated dad had a heart-to-heart talk with me. He was bewildered. He could not understand my decision to resign from a career that offered high pay, great benefits, lots of time off, and opportunity for promotion. When he asked me one evening, "Why did you quit?" I could not explain it to him, though I tried to. My logic did not fit his logic. The big problem was that my logic was Rich Dad's logic. Job security meant everything to my educated dad. Learning meant everything to my rich dad. My educated dad thought I went to school to learn to be a ship's officer. Rich Dad knew that I went to school to study international trade. So as a student, I made cargo runs, navigated large freighters, oil tankers, and passenger ships to the Far East and the South Pacific. Rich Dad emphasized that I should stay in the Pacific instead of taking ships to Europe, because he knew that the emerging nations were in Asia, not Europe. While most of my classmates, including Mike, were partying at their fraternity houses, I was studying trade, people, business styles, and cultures in Japan, Taiwan, Thailand, Singapore, Hong Kong, Vietnam, Korea, Tahiti, Samoa, and the Philippines. I was partying also, but it was not in the frat house. I grew up rapidly. Educated dad just could not understand why I decided to quit and join the Marine Corps. I told him I wanted to learn to fly, but really I wanted to learn to lead troops. Rich Dad explained to me that the hardest part of running a company is managing people. He had spent 3 years in the Army. My educated dad was draft exempt. Rich Dad valued learning to lead men into dangerous situations. Leadership is what you need to learn next, he said. If you're not a good leader, you'll get shot in the back, just like they do in business. Returning from Vietnam in 1973, I resigned my commission, even though I loved flying. I found a job with Xerox Corporation. I joined it for one reason, and it was not for the benefits. I was a shy person, and the thought of selling was the most frightening subject in the world. Xerox has one of the best sales training programs in America. Rich Dad was proud of me. My educated dad was ashamed. Being an intellectual, he thought that salespeople were below him. I worked with Xerox for 4 years until I overcame my fear of knocking on doors and being rejected. Once I could consistently be in the top 5 in sales, I again resigned and moved on, leaving behind another great career with an excellent company. In 1977, I formed my first company. Rich Dad had groomed Mike and me to take over companies, so I now had to learn to form them and put them together. My first product, the nylon and Velcro wallet, was manufactured in the Far East and shipped to a warehouse in New York. near where I had gone to school. My formal education was complete, and it was time to test my wings. If I failed, I would go broke. Rich Dad thought it best to go broke before 30. You still have time to recover, was his advice. On the eve of my 30th birthday, my first shipment left Korea for New York. Today, I still do business internationally. And as my rich dad encouraged me to do, I keep seeking the emerging nations. Today, my investment company invests in South American countries and Asian countries, as well as in Norway and Russia. There is an old cliche that goes, job is an acronym for just over broke. Unfortunately, I would say that applies to millions of people, because school does not think financial intelligence is an intelligence. Most workers live within their means. They work and they pay the bills. There's another horrible management theory that goes, workers work hard enough to not be fired, and owners pay just enough so that the workers won't quit. And if you look at the pay scales of most companies, again, I would say there is a degree of truth to that statement. The net result is that most workers never get ahead. They do what they've been taught to do, get a secure job. Most workers focus on working for pay and benefits that reward them in the short term, but are often disastrous in the long run. So we will leave it at that for a moment. Extremely important to remember from this chapter that one, you need to build up the skills, and that those skills are what get you to that level that you want to achieve. And in order to do that, you need to find ways to learn those things. And you might be working for different companies. In order to learn those skills, you might get education and do seminars in those different skills. But what you want to do is you want to increase your ability to be able to learn the skills you need to be able to achieve that goal that you have. Whether it be stock market investing and you do a stock market course, or you learn about options and you learn about different strategies so you can find which one works well for you and then apply it. Or it might be for real estate, doing certain real estate courses, or getting a real estate license so that you can work for a real estate agent for a while in order to be able to meet investors, find out what they do and find out how they work, and see whether they can also give you some assistance. Or if you want to get into business, learning the skills of accounting and sales and marketing and how to manage people. So whatever skills you discover that you need to go out there and find out how to achieve them. Very often, and it's coming up in a bit in the book, Robert Kiyosaki will talk about the fact that a job is only a short-term solution to a long-term problem that you can use in order to be able to learn skills, but not something that you necessarily have to do as a career if you have other goals. Because otherwise you can get stuck in there and you will have a lot more difficulty getting out if you take the money from that job, spend it all on different things that create this lifestyle that society tells us we need to have. And then it becomes almost impossible to be able to change jobs to learn new skills or to do the things that you want to do. So we're going to leave it at that for today. I hope you have been enjoying. If you would like to see other videos of the other parts that I have read of Rich Dad Poor Dad, feel free to go to YouTube. You can find us at the Passive Cash Flow Club. We're going to have these videos. There are a couple of other videos that I've made that are also up there, and we are putting up some new videos this year, which is very exciting. And if you would like to know more about Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow, that has been in one of those chapters as well, then feel free to reach out, and you can see what I'm up to on Instagram, but also reach out and send me a private message. And you can find me there at business_team_6_official. And I look forward to meeting you and getting to know you. So feel free to send a message to Instagram. And if you'd like to know more about cash flow, mention cash flow, and I can get my VA, my virtual assistant, to send you a message with the details on how you can join. So I'm going to leave you to enjoy the rest of your day, get some good tasks done so that you can get a little bit closer to your goals. Remember the rules of a Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Implement those today, and I am looking forward to following your journey in real life, where you achieve your goals of financial freedom.